How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to yoga. Today we're going to focus on yoga for deep stretching. So the first thing I will say is I'm going to give you a prop reminder. So let me go ahead and gather up my props. You're always prepared for yoga if you have 2 yoga blocks. And if you don't have blocks, you can use books and a yoga strap, which one of our kittens, either Shadow or Pepper's play. It looks like Shadow, and here comes Pepper. There is my yoga strap. You can use a strap, a tie, a hoodie, a t-shirt, a blanket, whatever works for you. Also, having a mat makes you completely prepared. Please don't practice on the floor or on the rug. Also, no socks. Bare feet always, so get rid of those socks. Just throw them over there. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and do a pranayama breathing reminder. So I'm going to go ahead and work with you with the breathing. So for yoga, we always do pranayama breaths in through our nose and out through our nose with a restriction. So in through the nose and out through the mouth with a restriction, or out through the nose with a restriction. So you can practice doing this by inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth and then closing your mouth. That gives you that practice of restriction in the back of the throat, and it helps to warm your body for the yoga practice. Okay, so now that we have done the pranayama breath, we're going to go ahead and get into some gentle neck rolls. So I began to move my neck towards the right, and I just kind of worked very gently and got out any kinks or any rough spots or any places that I needed extra stretching. Be very gentle with your neck. And don't forget to breathe, and don't forget to keep your shoulders down and keep them from creeping up around your ears during this time. Okay, wherever you're at, stop and start rolling your neck in the opposite direction. Goes a kitten. And just full disclosure, the kittens make about a bazillion, they just show up a bazillion times in this video. They were really active today. So I hope you guys enjoy seeing them. Their names are Shadow and Pepper. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do a neck stretch. So I took my right hand and put it above my left ear, and I lifted my left arm up. So during this stretch, you're going to want to just use the weight of your hand, so you're not pushing down in your head. The weight of your hand is kind of pushing your head down. Go ahead and switch, so put your left hand above your right ear and go ahead and stretch out your right arm. So when you're doing this stretch, you should feel a stretch from your neck all the way down your arm to your fingertips. So if you don't feel that, adjust your arm a little bit and keep your shoulders down until you feel that stretch through your arm. Don't forget to breathe here. Okay, go ahead and let that go. So as we're still seated, go ahead and lift both of your arms up, and then go ahead and drop your right hand to the mat and then stretch over so your left hand side of your body is getting a huge stretch. My left arm is directly over my ear. All right, go ahead and lift both arms back up to the ceiling. Now go ahead and drop your left arm to the mat. Now your right arm and your right side body is getting this big stretch, and your right arm should be right over your right ear. Go ahead and look to the ceiling. Don't look down. Awesome. Okay, come out of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and roll to our hands and knees for a couple rounds of cat and cow. So cat and cow pose is going to warm up our spine. All right, so right now I'm in a tabletop position, so my hip and my knee is in line. My shoulder and my elbow and my wrist are in line, although my elbows are a little weird, but they're in line. And then my hips are square. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move into cow face pose, and there is Shadow. There he goes. If you have any pets, you can pretend you're a little tunnel and they can walk under you. All right, go ahead and move your chest forward and your head up into cow face pose, and then go ahead and round your back. Exhale into cat, like a Halloween cat. Inhale into cow face pose. Exhale into cat pose. A couple more times. Inhale. Exhale, back is arched. Inhale. Okay, we're inhaling back to table. Awesome. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and step my right foot like right next to my right hand, and we're going to go ahead and lift up into a low lunge. So first, make sure that your hips are square and your pelvis is kind of tilted forward instead of having a huge arch in your lower back, which can actually injure your back. Make sure also that your knee and your ankle are in line. Go ahead and sink into this stretch and raise your arms above your head. Arrow straight arms. They should be right alongside your ears. Go ahead and keep your shoulders down, and don't forget to breathe in this stretch. We're going to hold this for a couple rounds of breath here. So really use this time to stretch into those hips. Okay, we're going to go ahead and come back to table, and we're going to switch. So we're going to go ahead and step our left foot next to our left hand. Go ahead and drop your hips. Make sure that your pelvis is tilted forward. Go ahead and drop your hips down towards the floor. Go ahead and reach your arms up next to your ears. Arrow straight arms. Yep, pretend your leg is a little bridge that they can walk under, or a little tunnel. And then go ahead and we're going to hold this for a couple breaths here. And there they are, just playing with my sweater. All right, we're going to go ahead and come out of that, hands back to the mat, and step back into table. Now we're going to lower ourselves to the mat, so we're laying on the mat. Go ahead and place your arms next to your lower ribs or your hands next to your lower ribs, and go ahead and lift up into either a very small cobra, your chest off the ground, or lift all the way up into a high cobra with your whole upper body. Or if you have the flexibility and the strength, go ahead and place only your palms and the backs of your feet on the floor for upward dog. And then go ahead and push your hips back into our first downward facing dog of the day, and adjust yourself on the mat as you need to. Okay, I did a couple slow bicycles because my calves are always extremely tight. Okay. So my form is not too great, so I think I end up adjusting my back to straighten it a bit more. So what you want to do when you're in down dog is you want to become aware of your back and make it as straight as you can. And it's okay if your knees are bent, because your back should be straight first and your knees eventually will follow as your flexibility develops. So go ahead and we're going to breathe here for a couple rounds. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm widening my stance. So if you're on a mat or a blanket, put your hands toward the edges of the mat and place your feet towards the edges of the mat and simply push back. This is going to give you a little bit of a bigger stretch, and you may actually be able to lower your heels a little bit closer to the floor with this widened stance. Don't forget to breathe here. And instead of looking at the kittens, whenever your head is down, you should be looking right between your ankles. Okay, go ahead and get into a plank position. Move into upward dog, inhale, and then go ahead and exhale into downward facing dog. Okay, so what I did is I jumped forward. Go ahead and inhale with a flat back, straight legs. Exhale, bend over your knees. Okay, then inhale, arms up, and then prayer hands to your chest. We're in mountain pose now. We're going to do a quick vinyasa. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, and then just bend over your knees. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, hands to the mat, and then we're going to either step or hop to plank. And then you're going to exhale down into either cobra or upward dog, and then exhale into downward facing dog. Go ahead and jump to seated. You should be getting better at doing that jump transition. Go ahead and sit right back. And we're actually going to lay down now and either grab our strap or whatever we're using for a strap. So t-shirt, hoodie, blanket, go grab it. If you don't have this tool, pause the video now and go grab something, because you're gonna wanna use it for these leg stretches. If you're ready, go ahead and pull your right knee into your chest. Notice that both of my feet, my toes are pointed up to the ceiling, they're active feet. And then go ahead and point your leg towards the ceiling. So what we wanna do with our leg here is if you have a strap or anything like that, go ahead and put it over the ball of your right foot. And your right leg should be straight in this stretch. So don't stretch it all the way to your chest with a bent knee. We want to keep your legs straight and gain flexibility. So the more we do the stretch, the closer it'll get to your chest with that straight leg. Also, make sure that your left hip isn't popping off that mat. Make sure that your hips are still square. Make sure your shoulders aren't creeping up by your ears. Make sure there's no tension in your jaw, and breathe deeply here. We're going to hold this for a couple rounds of breath. Don't forget to breathe in a pranayama fashion. In through your nose, out through your nose. All right, now we're going to go ahead and drop our right leg towards the right hand corner of our mat or a blanket or whatever. So our toes are kind of pointed over our right shoulder, and we're going to turn our head to the left. We're going to hold this stretch here. It's especially important in this kind of a stretch to make sure your hips are still on the ground. So make sure no hips are popping up or you're not rocking either way back and forth, right or left. We're going to hold this for a couple breaths. Go ahead and lift that leg back up to the center. And then we're actually going to place it on the other side of us. So it's going to be an inversion stretch. So we're going to go ahead and take that right leg across our body, and it's going to be pointed towards our left shoulder. It's okay if your right hip pops off the ground, and naturally it will, but you want to make sure that both of your shoulders are still on the ground at this point, and you should be looking over your right shoulder. Don't forget to breathe here. Okay, bring that leg back up. And I think I do a little extra stretch here, my thigh towards my stomach. And let that leg go, and let me know, does that leg feel a little longer to you? Because it is. So we're going to go ahead and even ourselves out. Grab your left leg and pull that knee into your chest. Hold here. We're going to go ahead and lift that leg up. Give it a little stretch, and then find that spot where your leg is straight. Go ahead and place your strap over the ball of your left foot. And then find where that leg is straight. I kind of had to release tension on the strap, and then I'm almost at 90 degrees here with the straight leg. You're going to want to hold this here. Make sure both your hips are on the ground, shoulders on the ground, shoulders down away from your ears, and breathe here. Make sure that your right toes are still pointed up towards the ceiling. Make sure those toes are active. And there's Shadow, I think. Yeah, there he is. You can tell because he's so big. But they're still kittens. They're only 7 months old. And he's like, hello, Mama, what are you doing? All right, now we're going to go ahead and move our left leg towards our left shoulder, towards the left-hand corner of the mat. Keep both of your shoulders down on the mat. Make sure that your right hip isn't popping off of the mat. And then you're going to look over your right shoulder. Don't forget to breathe here. Really try to relax in these poses. All right, go ahead and lift that left leg back up. We're going to go ahead and drop it to the opposite side. So do your best in getting it to try to get those toes to point towards your right shoulder or the right hand corner of the mat. Keep your right toes active. Keep your right hip on the ground, and keep both shoulders on the ground because it can be easy to want to kind of tilt one way or the other. Make sure you're looking over your left shoulder here, and breathe deeply. Yeah, I guess it was playtime for There Goes Pepper on the Stairs. And Shadow just jumped up and scared her. And I just had to look and see what they were doing. Yeah, they're brother and sister. So Shadow's right there. And then Pepper's the littler one. Okay, go ahead and take your strap off of your foot. Bring your left knee into your chest. Give it one more big stretch. Forehead to knee if you want to. That should feel much better. They should be very evened out now. So now go ahead and bring both knees into your chest. Okay, open your legs, and you're gonna go ahead and grab the outsides of each foot into happy baby pose. So here you're gonna wanna try to keep your lower back on the floor, so a flat spine that's touching the floor, and your knees are aiming towards your armpits here. So this is a very big hip stretch. But you should be pretty stretched out, so this should be a little bit easier than last time for you guys. All right, go ahead and release that. So what we're gonna do is we're going to sit up with our legs crossed and then go ahead and roll forward and then go into plank and then push your hips up. We're back in downward facing dog. Go ahead and inhale into up dog. Exhale back into down dog. And go ahead and step or jump. I jumped to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, bend over your knees. Inhale, arms up above your head, and exhale, prayer hands to your chest. Okay, so we just did a little vinyasa to standing. So now that we're standing, oh my goodness, after I cough up a lung, after we're standing, we're gonna go ahead and do some forward folding stretches. So go ahead and inhale after you fix your shirt. Make sure your shirt's fixed. Inhale, flat back. I did not quite touch the floor here, but I wanted to get a really good flat back stretch. And you can't tell, but I'm really slowly lowering my hands to touch the mat ever so slowly. And okay, my hands just touch the mat. Okay, so my legs are bent a little bit. I'm doing a small stretch here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your hands now and you're going to place them underneath your feet so your toes are touching the crease of your wrist. This pose is called Patahastasana, which means feet on hands. So your padas, your feet on your hastas, which are your hands in Sanskrit. So go ahead and don't push too hard. This is just a very gentle wrist stretch. I had to remove my sweater because they were playing with it too much. Just destroying my clothes. All right, so after you release that, go ahead and have your arms grab the opposite elbows and just kind of hang in a forward fold, but release your shoulders and release your head. Let your head hang heavy. Go ahead and nod it yes and shake it no, and just kind of work out any kinks in your head. Okay, be very gentle here with your neck. Okay, go ahead and hands back to the mat. Inhale, flat back stretch. Exhale, bend over your knees. Inhale, arms up into mountain pose. Exhale, prayer hands to chest. Awesome. Now we're going to move into another vinyasa. So exhale, inhale, flat back. Exhale, step to plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. We're going to take our right leg and step it directly in between our right and left hand and lower our left foot into warrior two. Make sure that your heel is lined up with the middle of your back arch. Okay, so make sure you have a perfect alignment. Okay, make sure your knees over your ankle. Alignment is very, very important in the poses. Make sure that your shoulders are down, your arms are straight out, arrow straight arms, and you're looking over your right fingertips. Breathe here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and straighten the leg, and I just went ahead and moved my feet to parallel. So they're actually pointed in ever so slightly. Go ahead and bend forward with a very, very flat back and very, very square hips. We're in a wide-legged forward fold right now. So go ahead and breathe. Make sure you don't bend those knees. So adjust yourself however you need to do a stretch with those knees straight. Some of you, if you have the flexibility, your head might even go on the ground. So right now, go ahead and place your right hand directly in the middle of the mat in between your right and left foot. And you're going to go ahead and turn yourself at the ribs to have your left arm pointed up towards the ceiling. And if you want an extra stretch, you're going to go ahead and take that hand and grab your left ankle and pull yourself over. So don't pop your hips up. You should be able to bend at the ribs and no more. So go ahead and come out of that. We'll try it on the other side. So left hand in the middle, right hand up. Okay, my T's looking a little weird, so I grabbed my opposite ankle, so my right ankle, and I just was using that to pull myself to get a bigger stretch. Notice that my hips are still square back there, so I'm able to kind of isolate my rib cage and turn that in its own section. Okay, come out of it, hands back on the ground. Go ahead and grab your hips, exhale very slowly, and then I moved my leg and Shadow got so scared. Did you see that? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move our left foot pointed out, so we're now in our opposite warrior two. So our left foot is straight and our left heel should be lined up with our right arch. Make sure that your knees over your ankle, your shoulders are down, and then go ahead and cartwheel your arms. Now you should be facing the opposite side of your mat. Exhale, inhale into upward facing dog, exhale into downward facing dog. And then I think I walked my hands back to my feet. Inhale, and then I did a little seated pose there. And then inhale, come up to mountain pose. That was interesting. All right, what do we got next? So we're just taking a look at those kittens, like what are they doing? Okay, so the next thing I did was I got into a squat. So I said, which way should I do the squat so the students can see? So we decided I was going to face you guys. So right now I came into a squat. So my knees are open and my feet are pointed out. Make sure that your knees are tracking over your toes. If your knee is kind of bowing in and your toes are out, make sure that your toes are lined up with your knees to protect your knees. Okay, so right now my elbows are pushing my knees out, so I'm getting this really big hip stretch. If you have the flexibility, go ahead and place your right arm on the mat and your left arm up and do a little twist. And this is a good stretch. Back to prayer hands. And then we're going to place the left hand on the mat, right hand up, so your left arm is kind of pushing open your left thigh. Back to prayer hands. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're destroying my sweater, aren't they? Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do now is a half squat leg stretch. So your right knee is bent, but your left leg is straightened out. So your butt should not be on the floor here. You should be balancing on your left heel and your right foot, and your elbows should be pushing open your right leg. If you have the flexibility and it's in your practice, you can do a bind here. But if you're not ready for that, go ahead and keep with the prayer hands. But if you're doing the bind, make sure your left arm and your right arm are clasping behind that leg. Okay, go ahead and switch to your other leg. So we have our left leg bent and our right leg out. Our right toes are active. We're here at prayer hands. Make sure your shoulders are down. Okay, and your left arm is still pushing open that left thigh. If it's in your practice, go ahead and do that bind. If you're doing a bind, make sure that your chest is kind of like pointed towards the ceiling. You're not hunching over. If you're not ready for that, just stay with prayer hands. Okay, go ahead and come out of it by coming up into a wide-legged forward fold, jumping with your feet together, and then standing up. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my sweater somewhere safe so it doesn't get destroyed. So Luke has it now. Okay, come to the front of the mat. We're going to move through a vinyasa. So go ahead and exhale, bend over your knees. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step to plank. Lower down, inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up. Go ahead and step your right leg next to your right hand, and then notice that I placed my hands inside of my leg. So my foot is outside of both hands. We're in what's called lizard pose. So you can either have your leg up, your knee down, or your knee and foot down, whatever is more comfortable for you. With this pose, you have to be really open in your hips, and I wasn't too open today, so I have a block to give me a little bit more length there. Okay, whenever you're stretching here, make sure that your shoulders are away from your ears. If you have the flexibility, come down on your elbows with a block or without a block. Go ahead and breathe here. Don't forget to breathe. Make sure that your hips remain square and you're not popping your hips either direction. All right, I moved the block away. Okay, go ahead and place your leg back in between your feet. Step back. Okay, get into plank pose. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Left leg up. Go ahead and step it next to your left hand and then switch your hand and your foot. So now your left foot is outside of both of your hands. Okay, so we're back in lizard. So notice my knee is still over my ankle. It's lined up pretty good. And I'm still using that block, but I think I'm a little bit more open on my left hip. So I may have gone down to my elbows, I'm not sure. Make sure that your shoulders don't creep up by your ears here. Don't forget to breathe and make sure your hips are square. I was like, let me try my elbows. And it did not feel too good. So I felt a really good stretch here on my hands on the block, and that's where I stayed. So if you feel a stretch, stay there. Don't overexert yourself. This practice is about stretching and relaxing. You should not feel any pain. Okay, go ahead and step back into plank. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog, and go ahead and step or jump to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, bend over your knees. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, prayer hands to your chest. All right, what's next? Okay, we're gonna move through another vinyasa. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend over your knees. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, place your hands on your mat. Step back into plank. Lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up. And then you're actually, notice what I did there. I stepped my leg up and I laid my leg down in front of me. This is called Pigeon Pose. So you're kind of in a half butterfly position. So your leg is up and bent. So your knee is in front of your right hip and your right foot should be in front of your left hip. If this is too big of a stretch, go into, this is thread the needle pose. So put your right leg and cross it over your left knee and then grab your left leg at the thigh or at the shin and pull it towards you. But if you have the flexibility, this can be really intense, but if you have the flexibility, get back into pigeon pose. Whenever you're in pigeon pose, make sure that both of your hips are really, really square, and make sure you protect your lower back. So yeah, just make sure that you're not rolling over onto either hip because you can have a tendency to roll over onto one of those hips. So make sure that you're not rolling on either hip. And then make sure that your left leg, which is straight behind you, isn't splayed out to the left way too much. Make sure it's directly straight behind you and not coming off of your mat. Just make sure that your body is well aligned. And then breathe deeply into this position. If you have the flexibility and you're ready to lay down and rest in the position, grab a pillow to put under your chest so you're a little bit more comfortable as your hips get opened in this position. Don't forget to breathe. And a couple more breaths. You can do it. It might hurt. If it starts to hurt, come out of it. But if you feel a good stretch, hold it. Now go ahead and sit up. Place that leg, the left toes onto the mat and then push that right leg up into the air without letting it touch the ground. I hope that made sense. Go ahead and lift your left leg and place it right in front of you into pigeon. Okay, so make sure that your left knee is in front of your left hip and your left foot heel is in front of your right hip. Okay, if that's too much for you, once again, move into thread the needle pose where your left heel is crossed over your right knee and you grab the back of your shin or your thigh and you pull it in. You get the same hip stretch. But if you have the flexibility, come back into pigeon pose. Make sure your hips are square and make sure you're not rolling to your right hip or to your left hip too much. Make sure they kind of maintain an equal squareness, okay? And then go ahead and make sure that your right leg behind you is exceptionally straight and it's not splayed out. Make sure that if you're resting like I am, your shoulders don't creep up. Okay, so you want to keep those shoulders relaxed. So I kind of adjusted myself so that wouldn't happen. And see, I'm a little more open on my left side, so I was able to lie down a little bit more. And you'll notice that yourselves too, that you might be open on your right or your left side, whichever side is more dominant for you. Go ahead and don't forget to breathe here. I'm gonna hold this for a couple more breaths. You can do this. We're almost through. Like I said, if it hurts, come out of it. This is about relaxation, not pain, and not pushing yourself. This is for renewal to get you ready for next week. All right, go ahead and sit yourself up. Place your right toe on the floor and lift your hips up, and then lift your left leg up and do a big stretch. That's kind of what I meant to say last time. I hope it worked for you. Okay, I stretched my calves out a little bit and I dropped into plank. Inhale into upward dog, exhale into down dog, and then step or hop to the front of the mat. Inhale, flat back, exhale, bend over your knees, inhale, arms up, exhale, prayer hands to your chest. Another one, inhale, exhale, bend over your knees, inhale, flat back, exhale, hands to the mat, step or jump to plank. Exhale, ride the breath down. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. And jump to seated. You should be getting pretty good at that trick by now. Okay, so we're gonna do a lot of floor stretching here, okay? So if you have your strap or the sweater or the hoodie or the t-shirt, have it ready. So right now we're sitting with our legs out in front of us and we're gonna do a hamstring stretch. So make sure that your hips aren't rolled forward and your lower back isn't like rolled forward. Make sure that your whole back is straight and your sitting bones are directly on the floor. Make sure they're not rolled forward here. So make sure you have a very good posture. Keep your toes active whenever you're doing this stretch, and if you're using a strap, place it over the balls of your feet and make sure that when you're pulling forward, you don't want to aim your nose to your knees, you want to aim your chest to your thighs, meaning whenever you're doing a stretch forward, your back remains straight instead of hunching your back over just to try to get your head down, which you really don't need to do. Make sure you're breathing here. Make sure that your shoulders don't creep up near your ears. Every inhale, you should be lengthening your spine, and every exhale, you should be inching very slowly your stomach towards your thighs, or your chest towards your thighs here. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to keep those toes active because that's really going to enhance that stretch in your hamstrings here. Couple more breaths. And okay, go ahead and remove the strap. Okay, so our left leg bends and the left sole of our left foot touches our right thigh. Square up your shoulders towards your straight right leg. Keep your right toes active. Put your strap or whatever it is back over the ball of your right foot, and make sure your shoulders are squared towards that right straight leg now. So you're kind of adjusting yourself a little bit to the right. And then go ahead and aim your chest towards your thighs. And if you have a cat or a pet, make sure you put your hand out and give it a pet. Give it some pets. Make sure you're breathing here and you keep your shoulders away from your ears. Every inhale, you should be lengthening your spine, and every exhale, you should very slowly be aiming that chest towards your thighs here. Not your nose, no nose to knees. And make sure that you keep your keep a flat back there. And then go ahead and release that. We're gonna switch our legs, so go ahead and bend your right knee and straighten out your left leg. Okay, so your right sole of your foot should be on the inside of your left thigh. Go ahead and square up your shoulders towards your straight left leg. Grab your strap, place it over your very active left foot, over the ball of your foot. And then make sure that you're aiming your chest towards your thighs, not your nose towards your knee. Keep that back very flat. And I just said, Shadow is climbing the Christmas tree right now. Can you get him down? And then go ahead and breathe here. Every inhale, you should be lengthening your spine. And every exhale, you should be getting your chest towards your thigh. And looking at me now, I think my posture is really not the best. So make sure you check yourself. Make sure you're not doing anything or rounding yourself like I look like I am right now. Don't forget to breathe here. Okay, go ahead and release the strap. And go ahead, and I think we're done with the use of the strap, so go ahead and throw it away. Okay, now we're in a wide-legged stance here. We're going to do a wide-legged forward fold. So go ahead and open your legs to however, like don't open your legs too much so that you already feel a stretch. You shouldn't feel a stretch until you start to bend over a little bit, okay? So go ahead and make sure that your back is completely straight and do very, very slight bends over towards the floor. If you have the flexibility, you can go ahead and reach your arms out ahead of you, kind of like I'm doing here. And if you have the flexibility, you can drop to your elbows. Make sure you breathe here and make sure you keep those shoulders away from your ears here. Okay, come out of it. Okay. My hair is looking a little strange here. Okay, go ahead and lift your arms up and go ahead and twist your shoulders and square your shoulders over your right straight leg. Make sure your toes are active. And yep, you're trying to square your body over your right straight leg. And you're aiming your chest once again towards your thigh, not your nose to your knees. Keep those shoulders away from your ears here. Also try to keep any tension out of your jaw here. Okay, come out of that. Go ahead and switch legs. So we're going to go ahead and square our shoulders over to our left straight leg. Make sure our left toes are active. Pull them back if they're getting kind of floppy. Make sure that they stay straight up in the air and are pointed towards the ceiling. Make sure that we're aiming our chest towards our thigh, not our nose to our knees. Get to breathe here. Keep those shoulders down. Hold this for a couple more breaths. Okay, come out of it. Arms up into the air. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our right arm and scoop it over towards our left thigh. And now our left arm is above our left ear, and we're going to try to grab our right toes. Got all that? All right, so whenever we're doing this, make sure that your left arm is over your left ear. And make sure your chest is pointed towards the ceiling. Don't hunch over. If you have the flexibility, go over and just try to make that connection with your left hand and your right toes. Okay, come out of that, arms up. Now we have our left arm scooped towards our right thigh and our right arm over our right ear to grab our left toes. Once again, make sure your chest is kind of aimed towards the ceiling and your right arm is over your right ear. So you should not be hunched over, you should be open. Don't forget to breathe here. And if you can make the connection, your right hand should be able to grab your left toes. All right, come out of that. Cool. And I think that's me saying, I think we're done with our legs. Oh, maybe not. Go ahead and get into a butterfly position with the soles of your feet touching. And here we're going to go ahead and do a very gentle, just like stretch straight forward over our feet. Keep your back very, very flat and your shoulders down. You can see I did not get very far today, but that's where I was. Once you feel a stretch, stop and hold it there. If you feel a stretch, don't push yourself forward to feel pain. You just want to feel a stretch. Make sure chest to feet. Okay. Now we're actually going to widen our butterfly stance. So notice that I kind of pushed my feet a little further away from me. And you might be able to get a little further down here. So once again, keep your back straight and go ahead and bend forward over your feet. Now don't be like me and let your head drop. I know we've been practicing for quite a while now, but don't let your head drop and don't let that form go away. Don't forget to breathe here and keep your shoulders down. Okay, come out of it. Go ahead and lift your knees up. Okay, so what we're gonna do is something called cow face pose. So, my left leg on the ground my left leg is on the ground and my right leg is on top of my left leg, and I have it in a way where both of my knees are stacked on top of each other. Okay, so my right leg is over my left leg and I have my left arm. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go ahead and clasp my arms behind my back. You can use your strap if you can't reach, but if you can reach, left hand up above your head, right hand can clasp, and then make sure that that left arm behind your head isn't pushing your head forward. Keep your left arm back with your head, and then if you have the flexibility, bend forward a little bit so your chest is aimed towards your thigh or your knee. Okay, so that's your right leg on top, your left leg is on the floor. Your left arm is behind your head, your right arm is below clasping. Okay, if you can't clasp hands, clasp with your shirt or use that strap. Now we're gonna do a fun switch, so try to keep up with me here. I just kind of place my right foot on the ground and do a cool turn without moving my feet. If I just move my whole body, I end up in the same position but opposite sides. If that didn't work for you, that's okay. It takes practice, but if you need to pause, that's okay. So right now, my left leg is on top. So my left knee is on top of my right knee, and my right arm is going to clasp my left arm. Okay, so right arm behind your head, left arm coming up to clasp. And then if you have the flexibility, go ahead and bend forward here, okay? So my left knee is on top, my right knee is on the ground, my right arm is behind my head. Make sure that that right arm isn't pushing your head down. Keep that arm back by pushing your head back. And then my left arm is clasped underneath there at the bottom. Okay, go ahead and release that. Awesome, I hope you had fun with that one. That's a very intense stretch. Okay, so now we go ahead and give your animals a pet. If they're around, use your hand to give them a pet. Okay, so now we're seated. And I think we move to a laying down spinal stretch here. So go ahead and lay yourself down on your mat. What we're gonna do is a supine stretch or a supine twist. So go ahead and grab your right knee, pull it into your chest, push your right knee over across your left hip. Whenever you do this, it's okay that your right hip pops off the ground, but don't let your shoulders pop off the ground. That's where the challenge lies. Keep those shoulders on the ground. Tee out your arms and turn your head to look over your right shoulder. Breathe deeply here. This should be a great hip stretch after all those hip poses and hip openers we did today. And there's a kitten. I hope you're enjoying watching our kittens. All right, come out of that stretch. Go ahead and pull your right knee into your chest again. Let it go. Left knee into your chest. Push that left knee over your right hip. So your hips are square, but your shoulders are still on the mat. Go ahead and keep your shoulders down. Tee out your arms, and we're looking over our left shoulder now. This is a supine twist. So our spine is pretty much in a full twist here. And our spine loves to be in a twist like this to relax after a long day of stretching. Don't forget to breathe here and don't let those shoulders creep up. Okay, come out of it. Hug in your knees for a sec. And then I think it's time to get into our final resting pose, Shavasana or corpse pose. I was like, I'm cold, so during Shavasana, get really, really comfortable, and if putting on a sweater or socks helps you get super comfortable if you're a little chilly, then do it. Cover yourself with a blanket, get a little pillow to put underneath your knees, underneath your ankles, underneath your back of your neck, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. For me, it's getting all bundled up. All right, so go ahead and lay down with your feet flopped open, your hands by your sides, about 5 inches away from your hips. Go ahead and make sure your shoulders aren't creeping up by your ears, and then come into a regular breathing pattern. we're going to go ahead and start our rest Shavasana. I will be back. And while you're resting here, I have today's quote. Our quote today is from Dr. Sukraj Dhillon, who is an author. And they said, "Never blame any day in your life. Good days give you happiness. Bad days give you experience. And the worst days give you a lesson." I'll be back. As you're resting here, go ahead and begin to make little movements in your hands and your feet and do some wrist circles, and then go ahead and stretch your arms straight above your head and do a big long stretch out your body. Go ahead and turn to the right and then simply curl up on your right hand side like it's time to get out of bed, but you're not quite ready yet. Go ahead and place your left hand onto the mat and push yourself up very gently, and join me here in a cross-legged position. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the mat or the blanket or the floor today. Namaste. And if you guys haven't noticed, Luke was able to share a link to a yoga mat that is very affordable if anybody finds they really want to use a mat to practice. Also, we love hearing your comments. Please keep them coming and let us know your likes and even dislikes for these videos so we can keep making them awesome for you guys. So just let us know, and I will see you guys on your mats next time. All right, bye-bye.